Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the Throwers Corner, powered by Monkey Finger Design. I'm your host, Mike Montgomery, and this time around we're going to be talking about contest entry fees and some of the costs associated with yo-yo competitions. So this can typically be a very controversial topic to talk about. Whenever it comes to money coming out of your pocket at a yo-yo contest, or really anywhere, it can go either way very quickly. People can get really angry that they have to give up their hard-earned $5 to $20 to enter a contest, or they can very excitedly hand over that money knowing that it's benefiting them in the long run. Now, the reason that we're bringing this up today mostly is that Ray and Shannon think I should talk about it, but also I've been kind of on the fence about which way to go on this topic. I think it can vary from competition to competition, and I really think it has something more to do with what the contest organizer does with the money than the fact that I actually have to give them money. So something you might not know is I have organized competitions in the past. They weren't that big. They were the Idaho State Yo-Yo Contest and a couple of local city contests and just random other online ones. I did occasionally charge entry fees for the competitions, and that was typically to recoup costs that I spent out of my own pocket to make the contest happen. Now, if you've ever done anything for money in the yo-yo industry, typically when you're starting out, you'll probably know this. You're not going to make any money in the yo-yo industry. You're not going to make that much money running a yo-yo competition because there's no such thing as a professional yo-yo competition runner. And if you're going to start a yo-yo company, the only way to really make any money doing that is to get massive distribution, which most of the small companies do not have. So pretty much everyone in the yo-yo industry that's making any money is just recouping the costs that they've already spent out of their pocket and maybe making a little bit of extra profit so that they can go to a yo-yo competition where they can spend money on entry fees. So I guess we should just go over the pros and cons of having fees for a yo-yo contest. The pros of having the fees for yo-yo contest, if the organizer uses the fees appropriately, mean that competitors get a cooler venue to do their tricks in. They might get some bonus perks like a grab bag when they register for the contest, or maybe they get even cooler prizes or a cash prize when they win the contest. And unfortunately, it also gives the competitors the bonus of not everyone can afford to enter a competition. Maybe some of them can only afford to drive there because they happen to live nearby, and so the competition isn't as fierce because there's not as many competitors. Now, ideally, you don't have that big of an entry fee, so you don't really have to worry about that, but we're starting to get to a point where it can be anywhere from $20 to $40 to get your foot in the door at a yo-yo contest. What I mean by the $40 fee is when you go to register for the National Yo-Yo League Association thing, whatever they're calling themselves these days, there is a entry fee just to be a member of that group. And then on top of that, you have to pay entry fees for each yo-yo competition that's registered underneath of that organization. Now, this gives it some structure and it kind of forces you to participate in the organization, and it really helps to give a lot of good structure to the contest, because otherwise people can just make up whatever the heck they want, judge it however the heck they want, and then you just have a lot of angry people who are mad because somebody used clickers or had the audience vote, and it became a popularity contest rather than a skill contest. So the cons of having an entry fee for a yo-yo contest are, of course, the barrier to entry for people who are broke. Now, if you happen to live in the same city as a yo-yo contest, and you don't have any money, but you do have somehow magically a $100 yo-yo in your pocket, then you can show up and you can watch everyone else compete because you didn't have any money. That kind of sucks for the people who are local, because if you're like me, you don't always have an extra buck or two to go and enter a yo-yo competition, and I typically end up on the sidelines watching everyone else compete, mainly because I haven't registered for the National Yo-Yo Association. And additional cons for having a registration fee for a yo-yo contest could include that the competition organizer decides to pocket the money and doesn't put any of that money back into the contest. They don't get a nice venue, they don't pay for professional sound or lighting or get someone to record the contest or get a nice website put up so people can register and submit their music online. None of the bells and whistles are there, and the money just disappears into thin air. Another con is, along with them pocketing the money and not doing anything with it or not using it wisely, there's no money prize for the winner, or there's no yo-yos in a bag at the end of the contest for them to take home. And a lot of people try to justify that by saying, well, you know, they get the recognition. If they win this contest, they could get sponsored or they get seeded to the next contest, and we're doing them a favor by charging them money and having them come out here and giving them nothing in return, even though they had to travel 300 miles to get here and take time off work and pay for a hotel and buy food and get their family there. It just gets really complex. So maybe I'm leaning more towards the side of not really having a fee. So I'm just going to go off of memory as far as the history of charging entry fees for the competitions go. When I first started yo-yoing about 13 years ago, there really wasn't an entry fee, even at the national level, for entering a yo-yo contest. And I believe when I went to Worlds in 2005, there wasn't a fee as well, but I could be wrong. It might have been $15 to $20. So I went to the United States Nationals in 2004 and 2005, the Bay Area Classic in 2005, Pacific Northwest in 2005 and 2006, Inland Empire Yo-Yo Contest in, I believe, Spokane, and then Worlds in Florida, and various other contests around the area and here in the state. And up until the last 5 years, there wasn't any entry fees, at least for the ones that I attended. And when there were entry fees, it always seemed like there was a little kid going to sign up and he didn't have any money on him and his parents had dropped him off and left, and it was just a big fiasco trying to figure out how to get them into the competition. Maybe they should have planned ahead, maybe it should have been advertised better on the website, I'm not really sure. But there has been a noticeable change in the competitions over time. Even though there have been some negative outcomes for people charging fees, there's also been positives. The competitions usually have much better backdrops, and they have much better music, and they have somebody actually running the music booth that knows what they're doing so that they don't let the song go on past the 2 or 3 minute mark. Then you have the added bonus of professional lighting, and they can hire a camera crew to record their freestyles and post them on YouTube so that you get some of your much needed notoriety from winning the competition, assuming you do, or you get shamed because you lost horribly and got last place and you got a knot in every single yo-yo. Charging a fee also gives them the benefit of being able to advertise the competition locally, but I honestly don't think there's any point to advertising the competition locally unless there's a large yo-yo following in the area. Thing is if you're going to be going to a yo-yo competition, you probably already know that there is a yo-yo contest in your area because of all the forums and yoyocontest.com or .org or whatever it is. It doesn't really make any sense to market locally as far as a yo-yo competition is concerned, mostly because the general public doesn't really care about yo-yos, at least not in the way that we do, so I don't see why they're going to be coming to the contest. The ones that do come probably heard about it on some local events calendar, but for the most part it seems like when you're organizing a competition and you want to get the word out, you mostly want to let yo-yoers know, because those are the people that are going to be coming to compete in your competition. The general public's going to sit there, watch a couple minutes of sports ladder, get bored and go home before any of the cool stuff actually starts. So as far as inviting the general public to your contest goes, I would say rather than spending a whole bunch of money putting up posters and all the money it takes to print the dang things, focus using that money on improving the competition itself so that as the contest grows over time, more and more yo-yoers will come to it, and eventually, because it becomes so big and a part of the local happenings, people will start to come just to watch and be entertained for the day. It seems like, at least when I started doing yo-yo contests, I wanted to invite the general public because I thought, hey, this is a yo-yo day-long event and I'm going to teach the general public how to yo-yo, and then they're going to see that we do all this cool stuff up on stage, and then they're going to want to stick with the hobby and learn it and spend countless hours doing this and then eventually get on stage next year. There was probably like 40 people that showed up. None of them showed up next year. So it was a lot of effort on my part, and it was a lot of money on my part getting the word out there, and technically it was money out of my mom's pocket because I was 15 at the time and she financed the whole contest, which turned out to be about $2,000 to do. So rather than doing the whole typical muckraking thing where I just complain about the problems, I think maybe we should suggest some solutions. Alright, so here's a couple solutions for the contest organizer looking to save money so that they don't have to charge an entry fee at their contest. 1. Find a free venue. It seems like everybody's trying to find the best venue out there, and they're always going for the public locations, which cost money because if you want a public location, it usually has to be maintained, and they have to pay for that somehow. There's places that are maintained for free, like universities and libraries and YMCAs and boy and girl clubs and things like that, community centers where you can have your competitions. No, they're not necessarily out in the public where everybody can see you, but like I've said before, general public doesn't really care about yo-yos. You do. So invite the people who are going to care about it to your private indoor competition where you don't have to worry about wind screwing up their strings and everybody complaining. Another way that you can save some money organizing your yo-yo contest is to enlist the yo-yo community itself. If you've been a part of the yo-yo community for any amount of time and they find out you're organizing a yo-yo contest, typically people will bend over backwards to help you make it happen because they, like you, want to see our hobby grow because we want it to be more validated and mean more to the rest of the world, because otherwise we've wasted all of these hours and hours and hours of time doing something that is basically just a toy. Have the community help you make graphics for your contest, have them help you make your website. If there are any yo-yoers locally that know how to do sound, have them help out with sound at the contest. You probably don't have time to be the MC for your contest, so maybe enlist a friend who doesn't know anything about yo-yos, because it's funny to hear their commentary on what's going on stage. They usually make up names for tricks, and it's pretty funny, but all the yo-yoers kind of cringe when they do it. The main thing is, if you are charging for your competition, please take note of the fact that you don't need to be spending money on things that you don't actually need. All you need for a yo-yo contest to happen is a location. You could do freestyle music off of someone's cell phone set on the ground, and you could judge it as a crowd, and the best yo-yoer wins based on what the audience picks. It's that simple. Now, if you want to have a much more fair competition, you're not worrying about your popularity contest, then you want to have a panel of judges. Judges are a good place to put some money because these people travel, they get to sit down for probably 5 hours, they don't really get to do anything but bake in the sun if you decided to do it outdoors, or they just get to sit there and sweat and smell the sweaty contest performers who don't understand how deodorant works yet because it's typically 12 to 15-year-old boys. Something else to consider that my buddy Tyler Jorgensen pointed out is local sponsors are actually a really good source of support. They help to generate revenue for your competition because local sponsors know that you're going to have a group of people there locally with their eyeballs looking at the advertisement that you have on a backdrop or on a handout that you give to anybody that shows up at the competition, and they're willing to put up some money for that because they understand that even if only 100 people see their advertisement, if one of them converts, it usually makes them their money back, or probably somewhere around 5 to 10 people converting. That being said, they are a lot more willing to help out because they want to see their local community grow. It's not just about yo-yos, they want to see kids in their community doing things that don't involve drugs or wasting their time sitting on the couch playing video games. But local sponsors want to see things happen in a positive way. So think about going to the local banks, maybe the credit unions that aren't these national chains, and see if they'd be willing to help cover costs. Say you have to pay for a venue, you just can't find a local community center to do it in, maybe get a bank to sponsor the venue, and you can call them the venue sponsor and put it up on the top of your banner and at the top of your website and at the top of all of your brochures. You can also hit up places like your local DJs that do your high school dances and see if they would be willing to do an in-kind donation. They're not as likely because most of those people are kind of going from client to client. They're just floating along because they usually do it as a side job or as a hobby. But if you can find someone that's willing to help out, having professional music and sound at your competition so that when you do need to announce the next person on stage, everybody within the area hears it, and also the music doesn't cut out or skip randomly, and if it does, they know what to do to fix the problem. Having a pro there for that is worth spending a little bit of money. So if you can't get someone to do an in-kind donation for it, find a local business or fundraise by maybe selling some of the donated items that you've received from yo-yo sponsors on eBay or Craigslist or wherever you have to do to raise the funds, because that's worth paying for. Something else that is worth paying for that is really hard to get for free is the backdrop. Now, my backdrop ain't exactly the best. It needs to be painted or have a curtain put in front of it or something, but if you've been yo-yoing for any amount of time, you will know that this string shows up much better in front of black than it does in front of particle board or a white painted wall, as is typical for most indoor professional spaces. If you have a backdrop that you can pop up and tape to the wall or pin to the wall, or it has some sort of supporting thing keeping it up, that makes it so much easier for people to see what is going on up on stage and when it gets recorded and shared online, thus building notoriety for your competition and making more people want to come next year. People can actually see what's going on. So if some local unknown yo-yoer just kicks total butt at the competition and their video goes viral, next year you suddenly have to figure out what the heck to do with 100 competitors that want to come and either beat this kid, or maybe you, because of that kid's notoriety are getting a lot more sponsors, and everybody wants to come compete because you have much better prizes this year. A lot of different things to think about, but if you skimp on the small details, or you don't think about, I just need a big black thing behind whoever's on stage, it'll cause you issues in the long run. Most people complain about wind screwing up their string, or the fact that they can't even see the string, or that the music skipped 30 times and it messed up their freestyle and now they've lost their groove and they can't figure out what to do, and then they go online and complain about your contest and how bad of a person you are even though you dedicated all this time that you didn't have to. It's not exactly the most fun thing to do, so I understand why competitive yo-yo contest organizers want to charge a little bit. Maybe it's to compensate them for all the time they have to put in up front. Maybe it's because they just have so many costs out of pocket that they need to either recoup or subsidize because they can't afford to do it all on their own. It's hard to do, and I get that. So rather than just picking a side and saying contest organizers suck because they charge money, or competitors suck because they don't want to pay, what do you think? What would you do? Do you think that we're charging enough? Do you think we're charging too little? Where do you think the problems are, and how would you fix them? I'd like to see your responses in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching the Thrower's Corner. Make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss the next one, because, you know, they come out so often that if you don't subscribe, you're gonna miss every single one. Anyhow, again, my name is Mike Montgomery. Thank you for watching the Thrower's Corner, and I will catch you later.